Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Mike J, and this is the Nerdcast, where we're going to be talking about all of the nerdy, sort of geek culture, pop culture things that have been happening, or at least as many as we can cram into our time limit. Um, and yeah, we're going to try and make it interesting for you as well. So, welcome to the show. I'm and Mike J, welcome to the show as well, I guess. uh, how are you doing today?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah,
Had a little bit of like a downpour last night that freaked me out because we haven't had rain in forever,
yeah.
and it just
Oh,
decided tonight at 2 a.m. you will have exactly 10 minutes of rain.
hmm. I love it when it rains in the middle of the night. I sleep like a
Oh,
baby when that
dude, I
happens.
that's my personal favorite too. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
it came out of nowhere and it was just like so hard and so heavy.
yeah, yeah. I love that shit. Um, and we haven't really gotten a lot of rain here since like September. So, well, there, yeah, because the tornado, or not tornado, the hurricane, some of that kind of trickled over, but mostly, nah, we didn't really get much. All right, so what we are going to be doing today, we have a lot of nerdy subjects to get into, so we may as well dive into them. But if you guys could help us out, hit the like button, because it really helps us reach more people. And also, if you're not already subscribed, then please consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications. We try to do shows every day of the week, Monday through Friday, that is. Sometimes we might do a show on the weekend. So let's go ahead and get started into the stories, shall we? So, first up, TwitchCon happened, and I'm not really sure what I mean, I assume that TwitchCon is essentially a convention for Twitch streamers and people that are part of the Twitch, what would you call it, a community, I guess.
Close
And
enough, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now, when I remember I went to VidCon, and at VidCon, it was basically all about YouTubers. And this was like in 2017. And when I went to VidCon, I got to meet a lot of, pretty influential folks. And I guess TwitchCon is probably something like that, except that Twitch is now the new, sort of YouTube. It's like really, really, really popular. And so one of the things that sort of like cemented that popularity is apparently Megan Thee Stallion and Master Chief twerked on stage, and because of course they did. So rapper will both host and musical what? Rapper will be both host and musical guest on this week's Saturday Night Live as well. Megan Thee Stallion headlined Saturday night at San Diego TwitchCon, and keeping with the theme of the gamer-friendly live stream service event, twerked with Master Chief from Halo. The bizarre moment occurred. There's like a video too, that we could check it out. Um, the person who tweeted it out said, "Bro, I'm fucking crying. They got Master Chief getting ass from Megan the Stallion, LMFAO." Whoa, 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 whoa,
Is this our version of Nero fiddling while Rome burns?
whoa. I mean, like, you know, I guess like this is the problem when normies like pick up everyone else's like kind of niche interests. I think that's the thing about this, that I'm just gonna use this as a cautionary tale. Okay, you don't really want the thing that you feel like really passionate about, that's your thing, or maybe it's got a small community, but they're devoted, they're committed, they're involved, so that that thing isn't gonna die. It's not just gonna, because it's not making enough money. But you want to guard against this normie shit, because that's, I don't know, like, maybe I'm completely wrong, maybe I'm just an old fogey, but man, if I ever like see something that I really liked, and some guy is cosplaying as a character from something, I don't know, like a Dark Souls game, and then they bring out like Lizzo to twerk with the Dark Souls character, I'm gonna die inside. I'm gonna die inside a lot. So that's kind of like what I get from it. I mean, Megan twerking with a Paramount Plus property continues the rapper's takeover of every streaming service, as she's also twerked with She-Hulk over on Disney Plus. Is that a good thing? Judged on HBO Max's Legendary, and just this week teased that she was filming something Halloweeny and possibly Stranger Things related for Netflix. Well, fuck it. I'm not watching Stranger Things right now, but Lizzo should, or not Lizzo, I'm sorry. I'm getting my O's confused. Megan Thee Stallion should just appear in Stranger Things. No, don't even worry about it.
She should be the next thing they find in the Upside Down.
Yeah.
They have to steal James Madison's flute to destroy her.
Yeah. And next week on Peacock, she will serve as both host and musical guest on Saturday Night Live. So this is really just like an ad for, where you can find Megan Thee Stallion. But I just wanted to briefly bring attention to this.
What does this even have to do with Twitch? What does this have to do with streaming?
Well, I guess, are people still playing Halo on Twitch?
I mean, there was Halo Infinite, but like that flopped due to lack of support. I mean, I think there was at one point there were more people playing the Master Chief Collection than there were playing Halo Infinite.
Yeah. That's a good point. I look, I don't know. I mean, I think that's another thing too. What if this is one of those like out of touch kind of like what'd you call it, stunts, where it's like, hey kids, don't you like Halo? And like kids are not playing Halo anymore. They've all moved on to something else, but they're trying to like, it's the Master Chef. I mean, Chief. It's that kind of out of touch marketing. Definitely,
probably is. I mean,
yeah.
I actually no. Fuck. Probably it definitely is.
Exactly.
It's certainly a stunt, but I mean, they're just cramming names into this because I guess this is what you do when you have a con. You try to get as many famous people there as possible, and they probably really needed some way to divert away from the fact that. What was that? One of the Twitch streamer, the former or current porn star, I don't know, ended up like breaking her ass jumping into their poorly made concrete foam pit.
Adriana Chechnik or something. She is a former porn star. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, that's cringe, man. And why are you? Well, I don't know if she just like decided to do it, or if she was being promoted by Twitch, but there's something about that is kind of like, I don't know. It doesn't. It's not good. But yeah, Adriana Chechnik. I mean, I hope she recovers. But,
yeah, no, that was damn. Like, you could see that. Oh god, someone described it perfectly. Like, as soon as she hits, and this happens to everyone gets injured. You've got that 5 seconds where you're trying to will yourself out of not being injured and just play it off. Mm-hmm. And then after that 5 seconds ends, you've absolutely shit the bed.
Yeah.
Oh man, and she like, props to her for not like just lying there and screaming, which is probably what I would have done if I broke my back in 2 places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it seems like TwitchCon is a cringe fest. I mean, like just based on everything I've heard, we could. Yeah, I know, with Hassan, and everything. I didn't really want to talk about Hassan, but it's just an example of like where things are. Like our popular culture is really gutter in a lot of ways, and I guess with the case of Megan Thee Stallion, literally in the gutter. But
I mean,
Anyway,
this is actually a pretty valid representation of Twitch, though.
yeah,
You know, you've got video games getting pushed to the back by a half naked woman,
yeah,
and that's Twitch in a nutshell.
it's true.
It's just
That's
titty streamers now all the way down.
Yeah, well, that's almost social media in a nutshell now. Like, no matter, you can go to Instagram, it doesn't matter. You'll find, titty streamers or
Oh yeah,
people taking pictures or showing, or they're advertising their OnlyFans or whatever
every
constantly.
every every website on earth is going to feature at least one woman going, now how can I make my ass the star of this show?
Yeah, yeah, and exactly, exactly. All right, so that's it. I just wanted to mention that briefly. So let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. Now let's take a look at this. All right, this is kind of interesting. So this is about She-Hulk, the series. Now I haven't talked much at all about She-Hulk. I think I talked a little bit about it when it first came out because I was familiar with the comic books and I wanted to point out how the comics were different from the series so that people wouldn't essentially shit on the comics, because I thought the comics were pretty good when I read them in the 80s when John Byrne was heading up the run. So I don't know if they changed her after that. I'm sure they did because they've done this all throughout. But this is actually kind of an interesting story because it's about how the show is essentially going after YouTubers. And in this story, I mean, going after as in like they're kind of they're trying to make fun of them, or they're not like legally coming after them or anything like that. But I guess in the last episode or maybe one prior, She-Hulk models the members of a group from the show called Misogynist Antagonist Group Intelligentsia. So MAG Magi, I guess, after the YouTuber Doomcock. So one of the members, or maybe many members, I don't know, they gave him a mask, and they're basically, he's a YouTuber that wears a mask and probably like distorts his voice, I think. And that's essentially like a ripoff of what Doomcock does. So Doomcock was is a YouTuber who makes content where he talks about the things that he loves: science fiction, fantasy, and in particular, I believe he's a big fan of like Star Trek, Star Wars, and Doctor Who. But he also talks about the Marvel movies and other sort of nerdy things. And I was watching him before he even started like getting involved with the culture war or the fandom menace or whatever you want to call it. When he was starting to see this problem, and because he's kind of like, he has like a number of like contacts that work at some of these studios, so he can get like the inside scoop on things, and or if there's a rumor, he might talk about the rumor regarding content. So I think overall it's harmless. Like, there's nothing, he doesn't make any threats, he doesn't do anything like that. And of course he's been more and more critical of Disney and Warner Brothers and all of these, like the people who make Star Trek, etc., and Doctor Who, etc. And so I guess like with She-Hulk, I think the creators are really like, this shit is really getting under their skin. So I'll read a little bit of this article from Bounding into Comics. In the strongest suggestion thus far that the Disney Plus series is nothing more than a platform for its writers to use to work out their own personal hangups, She-Hulk Attorney at Law appears to have modeled the uniform appearances of the series' incel antagonist group. So yeah, obviously they're also incels. Intelligentsia on the recognizable visage of popular YouTuber Doomcock. And Doomcock does, I mean, I gotta give him credit. If you've never seen his videos, he does like he does a decent amount of work to build a kind of persona that's like this supervillain that lives in the center of the earth, and he has like computer screens, and it's kind of neat. Like I appreciate that he put in probably a lot of work, for this whole thing. And it's funny because the She-Hulk people, they did a lot less effort. Isn't that funny? Like they're the big Hollywood, like, multi-million dollar whatever, and they didn't I don't think that they nailed it to the same degree. So,
Well, I'm allow me to be the voice of dissent here.
yeah.
I see similarities, but this is hardly a one for one.
No, I don't think they're going for a one for one because I think but I do think they're trying to allude to this guy because you don't think so?
I don't. I think they're definitely using this entire episode as a clap back to their haters, but I'm not seeing this specifically targeted towards Doomcock. I mean, after the masks and the voice changer, what other similarities have we got?
Well, not a lot. I mean, that's basically the extent of it, unless they're doing, like, unless his speech in the She-Hulk show is similar candor. Like, they want, but it could just be a general, like someone in the chat said that, it not just him, they're trying to go after everyone calling out Marvel. They included some parodies of other YouTubers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently.
I'd be interested to read about that.
And I remember when a while back, I don't remember what it was about, but there was in the Marvel comics they did this too, where they had all of these various like political pundits commenting on something. I can't remember what it was, but there was clearly like, Chris Reagan, Chew on Head, but also Alex Jones.
I remember
Watson.
that was like unmistakable.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess what it means is I think they are watching all of this content. They are paying attention. So, but again, I don't know. I mean, this is what the article says. You might be right. It might not be like, intended to be one-to-one. But I'll finish the article regardless. Introduced in the series 6-episode Just Jen, the Marvel Cinematic Universe's incarnation of the primary anti-Hulk supervillain team is depicted as a forum of exclusively full of angry men who have gathered in their shared hatred of She-Hulk. Shown making the worst quality anti-She-Hulk memes possible, very much composed of the writer's failed boomer attempts to parody contemporary memes using a format last popular in 2009 and issuing death threats towards the Jade Giantess on a Reddit-like website. The intelligentsia's hatred of Jen is shown as being based on nothing more than the fact that she's a woman. This is how they're writing it. Like, they just hate her because she's a woman. That's it. Though the group has been, for the most part, kept to the shadows, outside of her agent Josh being seen manipulating She-Hulk's heartstrings as part of the group's machinations, the intelligentsia finally made their debut alongside Daredevil in the series' latest entry, Ribbit and Rip It. Following what is essentially an entire episode surrounding the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, which is funny because it's like the only way they can get people to check it out is that they're like, oh, this one's going to have Daredevil in it, guys. The series' latest episode draws to an awkwardly stumbling close with Jen's attendance of the awards gala, where she has been nominated as Female Lawyer of the Year. Is that a real thing?
I highly doubt it.
Yeah, though this disappointingly turns out to be an admittedly patronizing participation trophy award rather than a genuine accolade. I'm trying to see if there's anything here. However, it's midway through Jen's speech that the intelligentsia reveal themselves to the public at large. Do you want to know who She-Hulk really is? Asked the group's masked leader, Hulk_King, as the group hijacks the award ceremony's audio-visual setup. This is the truth as presented by Intelligentsia. A voice booms out across the reception hall as two masked men appear on screen. She-Hulk does not deserve your attention. One of the men... What? She does not... Alright, wait, hold on. One of the men continues as She-Hulk's personal information obtained through Josh's hacking of her phone begins to flood the screen. She does not deserve your praise. She does not deserve the power she stole from the Hulk. She's not good enough to be a superhero. And she's a slut, he finally exclaims as the group's main weapon is deployed, a sex tape recorded without Jen's permission by the aforementioned Josh. Starting
Wow.
Anyway, so
I'm waiting for any of this to involve the necessary. Let me gather my thoughts here. I'm waiting for any of this show to hinge on the fact that the main character has superpowers.
You're waiting for what?
I'm waiting for this show to hinge on the fact that the main character has superpowers.
You're waiting on that? I mean,
I'm waiting for that to happen. Like, you could tell this dumb little story.
Oh, sure.
With any character at the forefront, they just have to be a woman.
Yeah.
You don't need She-Hulk for this. And that's honestly the biggest disservice of this entire thing. This would be like making a Batman show and calling it a Batman show and naming it The Batman Show. And all it is like Bruce Wayne at Wayne Enterprises opening Excel spreadsheets and balancing his budget and getting a coffee and looking at the new prototype umbrellas they're making and like attending business meetings and talking to shareholders. But still, this is the Batman show. That's Batman right there.
Well, that's basically what the She-Hulk show is. It's basically like, let's follow Batman through a day without having to do any Batman things. And nobody wants that. Like, nobody... that show is for the narcissistic creators because no men want that and no women want that. Like, to be quite frank, but women like the woman who wrote this, they think that this is like huge, and they have no talent. Like, there's no humor in it. They think that it's humorous, but it's really not. It's bad. I mean, I think that it's a fair assessment. This could go either way in terms of whether or not this is a reference to Doomcock or just like the fandom menace / I don't know like what call them, but these guys that are, essentially like torturing themselves by watching the Rings of Power and She-Hulk and then like making videos about it, which I don't have anything against. Go ahead. I think that people should be warned about the trash that's out there. But, I think that this could be a reference to them, so I'm going to go ahead and say I'm leaning towards that. I think that
I'd say, yeah, definitely a general reference, but I'm not certain any one person is being called out. Like I said, I know it's happened in the past. Like, they've depicted, obviously, Trump as MODOK. That was unmistakable.
Oh, yeah.
They came right out and said, we're Peterson's now the Red Skull, ha 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 ha. And that just kind of reinforces my point. Like, if they really, really want to draw a totally unmistakable comparison, they'll just fucking do it. They don't want to pussyfoot around. They don't do that.
I guess, yeah, I mean, maybe they're just concerned with, like, legal ramifications.
Again, what are they gonna do? Like I said, they've already depicted Peterson as Red Skull. I mean,
yeah, I know.
If you can't do anything over that, you can't do anything over this.
Mm-hmm. True. All right. So let us know what you guys think about this in the comments, and we're gonna move on. Albert Nader Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, "Hey, here's a 5 spot for your troubles. Thank you." And then he gives us another $5 Canadian and says, correction, they are going after male YouTubes, even though My Nerdy Home, Melanie Mac, and That Star Wars Girl trash it hard. Well, the thing about that, though, is, yeah, there are plenty of female YouTubers that are also really critical. The problem is that they have to pretend like they're not real because they need the narrative that this is all like incel men that are in their mama's basements and stuff. Because that's really what they think about the geek community or the geek population. That's really what they believe. They actually despise you guys. And that's why they have to frame it this way. That's why, like, female geeks, I guess, have to like come out in defense of everyone in the community, because then they'll have to face them. And what they're doing now is avoiding it, because if they can just say, well, this is a bunch of incel, angry, misogynistic incel men, and they just show that, then people are not going to go look or to see if there's any other voices that are saying similar things, because they've been handed, these guys. And on top of that, they know that like no one's going to have sympathy for these men. No one's going to wonder if they might be right. They're just going to accept the narrative that, oh yeah, they just hate women and they're nerds and incels that live in their mama's basement. So that's why they leave it out. It's not ignorance. It's not stupidity. It's planned, because the existence of That Star Wars Girl and Melanie Mac and others shatters their entire narrative. It blows it right out of the water. So they can't have that. All right, let us move on. But yeah, let me know. Do you think that this is a reference to Doomcock? Let us know in the comments. All right, so we got this other story. I thought I was going to have like a simple response to this, but I actually I had to think about what was said here, and I am a little sympathetic. So let me read this, okay? This is also from Bounding into Comics. Watchmen creator Alan Moore says adults who enjoy superhero media are engaging in a, quote, kind of infantilization that can very often be a precursor to fascism, end quote.
Whoa, slow that down.
Yeah. I'm not saying the last part is, typical Alan Moore craziness, but let's dig into this a little bit. So, making his latest trip out of his self-imposed semi-exile to criticize the current state of the industry, iconic comic book author Alan Moore has expressed concern over adults actively enjoying comic book media, as he believes them to be engaging in a kind of infantilization that can very often be a precursor to fascism.
Now, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong here. Alan Moore, this was a guy responsible for such things as The Watchmen, right?
Yeah.
A comic that you would not give to children, as it is not intended for children. Whose, yes. Man, it's on the tip of my tongue, could only be properly consumed by adults.
Yeah, I'm kind of
so
thinking
he's bitching about the very thing that he did.
Yeah.
Who did you think was going to read The Watchmen, Alan Moore?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so there's a part of what he's saying that I think is true, but I don't think he means to say it. Or at least, like, he's conflating things that are not important. Like, obviously, I don't think that this level of infantilization can very often be a precursor to fact. I think that's just not correct. I think that's stupid. Unless what he's talking, because here's the thing that I suspect. So I don't think really, because they're gonna go into like some books he wrote and how he's been like involved with comics, and he's like come and gone. Like, we all know him for giving us The Watchmen and like The Killing Joke, right? And they're great books. They're not really for kids. And then I think that like he actually expressed remorse for having made The Watchmen, because after he made The Watchmen, then all of the writers wanted to do their own version of The Watchmen, like where they take a character and they deconstruct it and flip it, and then they add a bunch of violence and language. And I think that he was just kind of like, well, this was just supposed to be a one-off, and now everyone's doing it. And so, because Alan Moore is kind of a hipster douchebag, he's like, well, I can't do the same thing everyone else is doing. So now I'm gonna do something really different. And he created a comic book called Tom Strong, which was basically a throwback to the very like golden age, everybody's optimistic kind of adventure story superhero books. And they were, I didn't read them, but I heard they were fantastic. And so, then there was a period of that, and then I think he walked away again and took another big break. So how he feel, and he even like did an appearance on The Simpsons where he was like, there was like it was like him and someone else, I don't remember, and they both talked about like they were basically reminiscing on the old superhero stories where you had like, it was very formulaic, but it was intended to be aimed at children. So there's a problem, and then the superhero says, this looks like a job for me, and then they go and try to solve the problem because that's what kids like. And so he says, there was another bit here that I thought was kind of interesting. I think he's right. The legendary Watchman and Batman the Killing Joke scribe reaffirmed his disdain for the comic book industry's current direction during a recent interview given to The Guardian in promotion of the upcoming publication of his first short story collection, Nations. Speaking to one of the stories included therein, What Can We Know About Thunderman, Moore described it as a good riddance to the industry before turning to assure The Guardian's Sam Leith, I'm definitely done with comics. I haven't written one for getting on for 5 years, he added. I will always love and adore the comics medium, but the comics industry and all of the stuff attached to it just became unbearable. So I agree with that. The comics industry and all the people involved have become, well, he says the stuff attached to it. I don't know what that means unless he's talking about the politics, because that's the only thing that seems to continuously come up over and over, and that it's become unbearable. Okay. To this end, Moore explained that he took particular issue with how the demographic of the entire medium had shifted from young boys to grown adults, and as he found it odd that, quote, hundreds of thousands of adults are lining up to see characters in situations that had been created to entertain the 12-year-old boys. And it was always boys of 50 years ago. So
it's crazy. It's like he doesn't conceptualize the fact people can grow up, like they age, and sometimes when these people age, they still have a certain fondness for the things they enjoyed in their childhood.
Yeah.
Especially, like I'm just imagining it like, if you were a fan of comic books in the 90s growing up, like I did, like I'm sure a lot of people listening did. It was, it was a thing back then, but it wasn't huge, Comic-Con was still just like, a bunch of neckbeards selling comics and wearing grossly misfitting X-Men costumes.
Yeah.
It wasn't this multi-million-dollar spectacle that talks about everything but comics.
No, it wasn't like this cultural, it's like a cultural monolith. Like, it's so big, right? And it results in games and movies, TV shows.
Yeah, but it was small back then.
I know.
You had like things. You had like Saturday morning cartoons. You had like the animated Batman, the animated Superman.
Yeah.
And they were, it was mainstream enough to be like, if you had a lunchbox Batman on it, you didn't get made fun of because Batman had sort of permeated the culture at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, every now and then a superhero movie would pop up, and they were never huge. I mean, they would do numbers. They'd put them out as like summer blockbusters, but they weren't trying to set up this, multi-trillion-dollar MC universe that they have now.
Yeah.
And it was mostly like, oh, it's still just this cute little kitschy thing that is kind of punctured its way into pop culture, but it's still just kind of a thing that not everyone enjoys. It's still a little bit of a, dare I say, nerdy thing.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then boom, you've got the absolute explosion in the 2000s. And so I can't blame anyone who was, a fan of this in their younger years going, well, shit, I want to check this out now. It's the coolest thing now. They're doing all these things from my childhood. Why would someone not want to at least explore that?
No, I don't disagree. I mean, I think that the enthusiasm of an adult that grew up reading comics, you can't really. What are you gonna do? Like, you can't get rid of that. Like that, if they still have a part of them that's still that 9-year-old boy that read those comics, that's not likely going away. But I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with adults reading comic books. But I think that there is something that I am a little concerned with, that I've been sort of talking about off and on, which is that I believe that if you're going to continue to be involved in, like he said, it was created to entertain boys, and it was always boys, and it, in comics, because it existed to sort of spark their imagination and their interest in wonder from the worlds that comic books can give you. Now, most of them, yeah, I mean, people think of superheroes, but it's not exclusively that. Like, there could be fantasy stories. I used to read Conan books, for example. But they were aimed at boys that were looking for something that essentially titillated their interest. And I think that where things can become a problem, if some of these boys, not even boys only, also women, can like get involved in the hobby as adults, my concern is that they often try to move the needle on the culture of comics. And they do it because they are adults that still want to be treated like they're children. And so what I think this is the problem within the comic book industry, there's a lot of content that isn't made for boys. And I think that an adult male can totally enjoy that stuff as long as he leaves it as it is. And I think that most adult males that read comics probably are fine with doing that. Even if that means that they're reading books that are like, maybe the dialogue isn't as sophisticated, maybe the plots aren't as, full of as many twists and turns, because it's written for, young men and boys. But the boys love it. So it's like, if I took my nephew to a comic book shop and I said, why don't you get a book, and we'll both get books and read them, I would go with him, I would buy the books, give them to him, and then when we sit down and read them, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, this doesn't have enough mature themes in it. I'm going to enjoy what's there, because it's not really for me. I'm participating, but I also know I'm not the target audience. And so I don't know if this is what Alan Moore is saying. Because he might just be like...
keep reading. It gets weird.
Yeah. But I will say that I think that it's true that there are grown-ass children running the industry that have narcissistic personality traits, that think that all stories need to be about them in some way, and they completely miss what comics are for, which is for boys. And I think that they need to people need to get fired, but what they need to do is they need to put writers and artists into the industry that are going to write stories for boys, not for adult fans, or not even really fans that want to essentially feel like this is still for them. And I know that, like, I don't know if you guys get it, but what I'm saying is that, like, you can get to a point where you're like, this piece of media is not for me because it's aimed at a younger audience, but I can take something from it, and I'm not going to complain, and I'm not going to insist that it be changed to suit me. And I think that that is kind of what is going on within the comic book industry. That's my suspicion. Okay. So did I read that? Yeah. I didn't really think that superheroes were adult fare, continued the From Hell creator. I think this was a misunderstanding born of what happened in the 1980s, to which I must put my hand up to a considerable share of the blame, though it was not intentional when things like Watchmen were first appearing. Yeah, well, I mean, he's admitted that a number of times, where he basically was like, well, I wish I had never made the Watchmen sometimes. There were an awful lot of headlines saying comics have grown up, he recalled. See, that's the thing. I tend to think that no, comics hadn't grown up. There were a few titles that were more adult than people were used to, but the majority of comics titles were pretty much the same as they'd ever been. It wasn't comics growing up, opined Moore. I think it was more comics meeting the emotional age of the audience coming the other way. The cannibalization of modern culture by superhero fare was particularly worrying to Moore, as he believed the widespread fanaticism towards characters and stories intended for children was served as the perfect primer for the acceptance of general fascism. All right, this is probably where we're gonna diverge.
And yeah, that completely lost me.
I said around about 2011 that I thought it had serious and worrying implications for the future if millions of adults were queuing up to see Batman movies, stated Moore, because that kind of infantilization, that urge towards simpler times, simpler realities, that can very often be a precursor to fascism. Yeah, because Batman
That's a really interesting statement right there.
Yeah. Well, why is that?
I'm reading into that, and maybe I'm reading into it a little too much. But the urge towards simpler times, simpler realities, which is something that I'm find myself pining for these days more and more, as we keep spiraling into this hell world that we've created around us. Is it really that bad to just, I keep hearing people say, oh man, that we really didn't realize how good we had it in the 90s. And I mean, I think to some aspect that's true.
Yeah.
But I don't see how, like, wanting a simpler time, a simpler reality can lead to fascism. Like, I hear a lot of people's, like, especially in our community, you say, hey, I give you $1 million, what would you do with it? And they'd say, plot of land in Montana, build a house, raise some chickens, live there for the rest of my life. And that's the urge I feel a lot of people are wanting to move towards these days, especially with how hellacious some of these big cities are getting. I mean, hell, you flew the coop. You got out of probably one of the worst spots in America.
Yep.
I'm hoping to do the same for myself here in the coming years, if not months.
Yep.
And it's like I'm sitting here going, how is that fascist? I just want to be left the hell alone.
Alan Moore is a communist, so that means that everything is fascist to him. That's all. I mean, that's that.
Yeah.
He's a commie, and as far as I know, because, he's talked about it, and, but like, even setting that aside, I think that he's always worried about fascism, but I don't know why. And it's funny because it's kind of a childish way to see the world. So,
Full circle.
Well, he's basically talking about how childish people who still like superhero comics are. And look, just to like clarify, my thing is not that if you like comics or superheroes or whatever, it means that you're a child. I don't even think that's what he's saying either. I think that he's either being represented in an overly simplistic way or he's being simplistic. But because there's a reason why people like stories of heroism, whether they're superheroes or not superheroes, it doesn't matter. Especially men. You know, they like to see that because it's inspiring. And it can take any number of forms. It doesn't have to be like guys in costumes. But maybe for a lot of people it is, because that's what they grew up with. It's like how people get really attached to He-Man. And so, you know, if they fuck up a He-Man movie or show or something, you know, they get upset by that. And I was never really a big He-Man guy because I thought it was a little silly and it was kind of obvious that it was Conan the Barbarian, but they didn't have the rights. But nonetheless, like I had nothing but respect for people who did like it. It didn't really, you know, bother me. And I had my own little hang-ups. So, but I think what it is people want to see other people, and if they're kind of iconic, they want to see them doing the right thing. And so that's what I think that most people's, especially men's, attraction to heroes is. But I also think that when it comes to boys, we should give them some room. You know, like, here's another thing I thought I'd bring up. I don't know. I don't have any kids, but if anybody who's watching has kids or knows someone who has kids, or maybe you have nephews that are younger, what toy are they really into right now? Like, what's the toy? Because maybe it's because I'm a product of the 80s, but when I was a kid, you know, the most awesome toys were the He-Mans, the G.I. Joes, and the Transformers. You know, those kinds of things. And like, I wanted them, you know, and they were constantly producing more toys, like for different franchises and stuff, and like making whole cartoon series that were effectively just ads for the toys.
Yep.
But like, and maybe people will argue that that's not good, like that's like, you know, capitalism run amok or whatever. But no, I had love for GoBots. I did, because that came out before Transformers, and they were like $2 at this like Asian store. They weren't real; they were knockoffs, but they basically looked the same. So, you know, but I had that when I was a kid. So what do 9-year-old boys have now? Do they have like any world that they can escape into? I mean, like, people who are born a little like in the late 80s, for example, like my wife, she's a little younger than me. She had the Ninja Turtles. And like, because she was kind of a tomboy, so she didn't really play with girl toys. And the Ninja Turtles, you know, that was her childhood. And so when I got a little older, I knew about the Ninja Turtles, but I didn't get really into it because I was getting into like high school shit, you know? So I just wondered, like, what do kids have now? Because I think that, like, I'm worried about childhood. I'm worried about what children are doing with their time. And I know that a lot of them just play video games. And I guess that makes sense, because that's like the thing that's constantly evolving and improving. So they probably just play Fortnite and Minecraft. And like, what's the one with the yellow guys? And they're like, oof, you know what I'm talking about? It's Roblox. Yeah, it's Roblox.
Oh, is that the one where they're all shaped like that one Kanye music video?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's the Roblox. So, you know, and I guess that's what kids are into now. So I have no idea. Anyhow, those were my thoughts on that. Yeah, I mean, he goes into, should I keep reading this?
It's almost there. There's one last thing, and I want to comment on it.
All right.
So yeah, just It's like one small little paragraph, and then it's over.
In support of the argument, Moore noted that when we ourselves took a bit of a strange detour in our politics with the 2016 election of Donald Trump, is that why he left like the public eye? Like Trump got elected, and he was like, "Oh my god, fascism has returned," even though I live in the UK. Most of the major films at the time were ones based on superheroes such as Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Deadpool, and Captain America Civil War. Captain America Civil War is fucking great. Closing out his thoughts on the topic of comic books, Moore was asked by Leith how he felt about that Guy Fawkes mask used by the titular protagonist of V for Vendetta, to which the bearded writer replied, "I can't endorse anything that people who take that mask as an icon might do in the future, of course, but I'm heartened to see that it has been adopted by protest movements so widely across the world. Because we do need protest movements now," he concluded, "probably more than we've ever done before." Alan Moore's illuminations hit
more than the civil rights era, Brian.
Yeah.
More than Jim Crow, more than protesting the Vietnam draft. Right now is why we really need the most protests.
Of course.
Right? That's just that obviously.
Well, that's not at all delusional. But I did want to say a few things about that. I don't necessarily agree with Moore. I think that he's just shitting on people who like comic books, and but I do believe that we have to like
he gets halfway to it, but I'm still certain he's wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying, let boys have things. Don't take it from them. So, and let them enjoy it. And if you can, enjoy it with them. All right. So now
I believe we got some chats and chows that are topical.
Yeah. I better read those. Super chats. I'll read them first, and then maybe you can read the super chows for me.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So Albert Nader Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, "Spider-Man Dark Symmetry was better than Watchmen. I hated Watchmen, the comic and the movie, except for Rorschach. Sucked. And Moore is overrated." Well, I don't, you know what? I'm sure that there are people who would disagree with that. But fair enough. Thank you for the super chat. And I don't know what Spider-Man Dark Symmetry is, so. Albert Nader Retro gives us $2 Canadian and says, "My nephew likes trucks and dinosaurs." I mean,
good on him.
That's dope. But I mean, is there like that? See, there's a perfect opportunity there to come up with some kind of like toy that is both a dinosaur and a truck. That's what I'm saying. Why not? Truckosauruses. And I mean, boys would eat that shit up. And then you have like different kinds, and they turn into different. Maybe they don't turn
and
into
they fight
anything, but yeah.
They race, and then they fight mid-race, and then they turn back and continue racing.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Some people are saying that's already a thing. Well, there you go. I don't know. All right, so what super chows do we have?
So, from Zerank's 2022 She-Hulk aficionado, "Brian, I cannot stand your willingness to endure material lacking mature themes to appease your nephew's enjoyment. Simp."
Yeah, well, just trying to make a little room for my nephew. My nephews. And is that all?
That was the one, and I marked it off. I can't say anything in that channel, but I marked it off.
Okay. All right. I'll.
And we got one real quick one, by the way, from Albert Nader Retro. Raven's Last Hunt. I don't.
$2 Canadian.
Not familiar with that.
It was a comic book issue, kind of like a legendary one in Marvel, because it's one of the. So basically, Kraven the Hunter who was like a Spider-Man villain from his
Oh, he
rogues
was a
gallery.
Spider-Man Rogues Gallery.
Yeah, and he wanted to like capture the Spider-Man, like that his whole thing was that he was like this world-renowned hunter, and he wanted to prove that he could. Essentially, Spider-Man became the most dangerous game, and he became a recurring villain, and for a long time, one of the better known ones. But in Kraven's Last Hunt, he ended up. Well, it takes a really dark turn. That's all I will say. But it is a good one. It is a good story. There was probably like nothing left for Marvel to do with the character. That's all I will say, because he wasn't a thief. He wasn't a criminal, right? So
It's just a half-naked guy.
yeah, just a half-naked jungle hunter guy that was looking for, his greatest challenge. He was like Scaramanga from James Bond. Amasang gives us $2 and says, "Can we get Ben Shapiro for some Micro Machines ads?" Oh no!
Why not?
Why? I mean, I would like that, but I don't see it happening. Maybe we can get Brett Cooper instead.
He can, and the best part is we could have Ben Shapiro driving the car.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. He could probably do that. All right, so let us move on to the next story. You might find this one fascinating. Do you play a lot of video games? Well, you might be increasing your risk of heart problems. According to a study, video games could trigger deadly heart problems in children. It's the multiplayer war games that are the most triggering. Video games may seem like a sedentary activity, but the adrenaline rush they give can trigger deadly heart rhythms in susceptible children, a landmark new study has found. Games can cause an uncommon but distinct pattern of arrhythmic heartbeats, which has even caused death in some kids with cardiac issues, a report published in Heart Rhythm found. Video games may represent a serious risk to some children with arrhythmic conditions. They might be lethal in patients with predisposing but often previously unrecognized arrhythmic conditions, head researcher Claire Lawley, MBBS PhD, said in a press release.
We're bringing out all the weasel words, aren't we?
Yeah, right.
May represent, might be lethal, often previously. It could maybe on a Sunday, only in June, at 7 p.m. could, in some cases, experts say.
Wow. It's interesting that we went from video games cause delinquency in children to video games can cause children to commit mass shootings, to video games can cause children, boys, to want to rape and harm women, to video games can cause heart attacks.
I'm not sure if it's funny at all that we went there. I think this is orchestrated, Brian. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but some people are mentioning that a certain other thing may be causing heart-related issues in young boys and men, and well, I'm sure it's nothing anyway. Let's keep going.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't want to overthink it. Let's just do as we're told and accept the science.
That everything causes heart attacks now.
Yeah, everything causes heart attacks.
I remember. Oh god, one of my favorite articles from this year was like, higher energy prices are going to be causing heart attacks, and the whole logic behind this was people are going to get their bill and they're going to see how much it's gone up, and they're going to boom, heart attack right there, just shocked at the price.
Yeah. When are we going to find out that playing video games causes climate change? Or that, I think, you know what? They could probably make the case for that.
Oh, they easily could.
Yeah.
These big hype. I mean, what was the thing they were trying to? I think it was here in California. They were trying to ban pre-made gaming computers because they use too much electricity or something like that.
No, I hadn't heard that.
I'm gonna have to look that up real quick. Make sure that wasn't a fever dream.
All right, so researchers found that many of the children who suffered heart issues were playing multiplayer war games on both console and PC, though they did not specify what games. Yeah, because that's the most important detail. They also said that patients entered excited states and grew ill after fighting with their fellow players. The experts warned that children will experience blackouts while gaming children who experience blackouts while gaming should be taken to a heart specialist, as losing consciousness could be a telling sign of an undiagnosed heart problem. And then we have like this graph or something with a boy playing video games looking really anxious, like his heart is exploding. The new research suggests that video gaming may not be as safe of an alternative to contact sports as previously touted. Well, you know, if kids want to go back outside and play like football, I'm not against that. I think that they should do that. The adrenaline rush from physical activity and heightened emotions, such as gaming, can lead to blackouts, palpitations, and dizziness. I'm not gonna be able to. So something called CPVT and congenital long QT syndrome types 1 and 2 were found to be the most common underlying issues, with the majority of diagnoses being genetic. In some cases, a child's video game induced blackout led to others in his family being checked out and diagnosed with a genetic heart condition. So in some cases, a child's video game induced blackout led to others in his family being checked. So these are not people playing video games. And they found and diagnosed them with a genetic heart condition. They're calling it genetic, but yeah, I mean, while the possibly deadly reactions to video gaming are not a common occurrence, they should be taken very seriously and have some reconsidering video gaming as a safe alternative to contact sports. We already know that some children have heart conditions that can put them at risk when playing competitive sports, but we were shocked to discover that some patients were having life-threatening blackouts during video gaming, researcher Christian Turner, MBBS, said.
Now, I've seen a lot of weird things happening while people play video games. Especially if you like some of the more, shall we say, animated streamer personalities like Tyler One. He'd do some funny things. But I've never seen anyone black out while playing a video game.
Yeah.
Well, okay, caveat. I've never seen anyone black out that did not involve prodigious amounts of alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
And so, again, I don't think you can blame the video game in this case. I think you blame the underlying genetic condition.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's not as interesting as video game cause heart attack.
Well, you know what? It's not really video.
We all know that, Brian.
Well, yeah, it's not video game. Like they want us to think it because they presume that boomer parents aren't even going to look into it. Oh, like if their kids start having problems, then there'll already be an explanation that's out there. Oh, looks like does your kid play video games? Like literally, who's going to say no to that? Almost all kids play video games. Even if they don't have one at home and they play at their friend's house or something.
That was one of the things I always enjoyed hitting back at people with when they're like, "Oh, the video games are gonna turn you into a murderer. Oh my god, murder simulator teaching children how to slaughter." And it's like, okay, you are aware that video games are the largest consumed piece of entertainment on Earth right now, bigger than anything, bigger than any book ever sold, bigger than the movies, bigger than anything, period. TV show. any
Yep.
other forms of entertainment, they're bigger.
Yep.
And they're consumed by something crazy like 70% of the population. So if video games were going to turn people into killers, we would run out of people to kill within a day.
Mm-hmm. Hothead Studio says, is mobile gaming included in this study? Well, I don't know.
Better not be.
I doubt it, because I think that it would throw off the numbers too much.
Well, the other thing too is like the main thing they're targeting is they're saying the adrenaline rush from playing a game. I mean, I've definitely like had my heart rate increase, say if I'm like playing like a horror game or something like that.
Sure.
Or really getting into like a competitive like first person shooter or something like that. I've never been just on the edge of my seat, heart palpitations, breathing heavily while playing Angry Birds.
Yeah. Well, whatever people are playing on mobile right now.
Get Genshin Impact or Candy Crush.
Yeah, it's mostly like puzzles and stuff, right? But yeah, so that's the story, I guess. And just be careful when you're playing Fortnite. You could have, if you start feeling like your heart skip a beat, then it's probably the video game.
Yeah. If you black out, if you black out while playing a video game, please see a doctor. Yeah. I'm cool with that message. I'm fine with that. See a doctor if you black out while playing video games.
There you go. All right, so let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. Do we have any more super chows or anything?
I did not see any. I will double check. No, we're good.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to.
We have I'm being told we have a Rumble rant.
Let me take a look. Yes, Blave Kaiser, thank you, gives us $10 and says usually watch on the weekends. Just wanted to pop in and say, Brian, Becca is an awesome character. I don't know who Becca is. She is Jackie to David's V.
Rebecca from Cyberpunk.
Also, Shadowrun Wen, Trigger, and CD Red. Okay. Who's Rebecca?
She's the
the little lolicon character.
The lowly.
Yeah, the lolicon from the anime. I mean, look, if you like her, that's fine, but I'm not, like, to be honest, I'm not seeing anything in that character that I hadn't seen in every other lolicon ever. So, and they're always written the same way for some reason. So, I guess my thing is that if you're into it, that's fine. That's your choice, but it just seems like it's just a gigantic stereotype. And to me, it's just not that interesting. The anime character, yeah. Well, they're all anime. She's not even a lolly either. Well, I think that she's supposed to be reminiscent of that. I mean, yeah, she's got a body like an adult, but she's also really, really short. And she's got a big head. And she yells all the time. And of course, she uses gigantic guns because that's totally not what everyone would expect, even though it's clearly, obviously, what everyone would expect. But I'm not just gonna bash on the character. Like, I overall enjoyed the anime, but it just felt too anime. Cyberpunk as a genre, it's not that anime. It's more Ghost in the Shell. It's more Alita Battle Angel, if you're going to compare it to an anime. It's more Dominion Tank Police or Standalone Complex. You know, it's grounded. And the way that they did the action and animation and that, because of the nature of the studio, I forget the name of the studio that did it, but like Trigger, yeah. Their whole thing is that they're extremely, extremely over the top. And it works for whatever, like if you're doing a show like that, but it doesn't really work, in my opinion, for the cyberpunk genre, because that's a little bit more, it's more grounded. So, just my opinion. Thank you for the Rumble rant. Shadowrun when. I'm not really sure what to say about that, but maybe I don't think that CD Projekt Red will do that, but maybe someone else will. I know that there have been good Shadowrun games, like even going back to like the Sega Genesis and maybe even before, like on PC or something. Um, and they're supposedly really good. So, you could just try and find those classics if that's what you're asking. All right. Anyway, let us move on to the next story. This one is one of the ones you sent me. Um, More layoffs coming on Tuesday at Warner Brothers Discovery. This was the day before yesterday, but I hear that they're gonna like can some people today. Sources say Channing Dungni's Warner Brothers TV group will be among those impacted. So what stood out for you from this? Or should I just read
Mostly
through it?
that. Well, yeah, I started reading like because you think Warner Brothers, oh, they're gonna lay off some people at WB. Well, yeah, I guess their shows aren't doing that hot. It makes sense. But then I read more, and it's the Warner Brothers Television Group, and they own a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like DC Comics, Cartoon Network, and Adult Swim.
Hmm.
They got their fingers in a lot of pies. So this layoff is if it's as big as they're saying, they're trying to cut costs, I think, up to 30%.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be a slaughterhouse.
Mm.
And it's like this continued trend of like nobody likes what you're pumping out, and that we've we were all wondering, maybe say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, when we keep seeing these more progressively woke and woker and woker and woker entertainment
Properties.
things coming out, and
Yeah.
you're just sitting there going like, how can this make money? Who wants to watch this?
Mm-hmm.
And I think these chickens are finally coming home to roost.
Yeah. Well, definitely on the wokeness front, but not exclusively, because I sometimes I think like do streaming services just bombard their their feed with just like shows about anything? Because if like personally I'm going to be drawn to content that suits my, taste, obviously. And that'll probably be like action and maybe stuff that's based on, a property that I am familiar with or a book or something, right? But there's also tons of shows that are not that. They're just like soaps and or not like soaps, but they're I guess we would have called them like primetime dramas, or they would have been like cop shows that are clearly made for women, like these kind of what do you call it? NCIS slash
Uh,
like what I'm talking about? Cop
yeah,
shows. Basically like
yeah, I
cop
guess.
shows for women. Or sitcoms that like they just put out tons of things. And I wonder, like, do people even have time to like watch all this shit? Because I don't think they do. I think that they end up like falling in, maybe they buy or pay for a service because they see how much content there is, but then once they have it, they only pick like a couple of shows and they just watch those. And they don't really like, all of the access doesn't really bring them a lot of value because they're not interested.
Wow,
You know,
NCIS has been going for almost 20 years.
Well, I don't. I'm not specifically talking about NCIS.
I know,
I'm
I know, not
saying
just
a
that
show
type of
like
show
that.
that
Yeah, yeah. No, I
the
know. And they seem to. I guess someone's always
and
watching them.
it has no less than 4 spin-offs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, uh. So, but I do wonder if it isn't partly an oversaturation of the market because like um there's just so many shows and then like a bunch of them don't get watched, and then and Warner Brothers in particular, they do this weird thing where they own a property and they make like three or four different versions of the same property. So I will
Mhm.
give you an example. Scooby-Doo. So we got like a you could still watch the old Scooby-Doo. So, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? From the 1970s. You can watch that. You can watch, I think they tried to remake it like in the 80s or 90s where the gang was younger. So they were like littler kids. And, Scooby was a puppy. And then you can watch that. Then there was the Scooby-Doo show where, it's more like just sort of a modernized version of it where the episodes are newer, but it's still aimed at kids. And then you got like the kind of weirdly out of place Scooby-Doos, of which they have two shows that I know of. One is the one where Velma comes out as gay because we all needed to know that. And then the other one is the one where Velma is an Indian woman played by Mindy Kaling, and the Shaggy is black for some reason, and everyone's pretending like there's nothing weird going on, and
Scooby-Doo is not even there.
Well, so it was revealed that he is.
Oh, he is.
Yes, but he's going to be a rat terrier, so he's not going to be the Great Dane that he was, because one of the things that was really funny about the original was the fact that the largest animal amongst the group was also the most cowardly.
Yes. Great Dane should be able to fuck you up.
Yeah, but Scooby-Doo is scary, or he's afraid of everything, so that's the joke, guys. That's the joke. The joke is he's not like what people expect from a Great Dane. And sure, there are, Great Danes that are, would you call it? They're sketchy. So, but yeah, so they gave us at least what did I describe? Like 4 or 6 different Scooby-Doo shows that are all running at the same time. But like, and who's gonna watch all of that? I don't think people are gonna watch all of that. So I think that they might be spreading themselves way too thin. It's like doing a million variations on one product, and I don't think that that's wise, but I think that's what's happening. And I think in a number of ways it is going to cost them money, and that's only like, I'm just talking about that cartoon show. I don't know what else they got going on, but I think that somebody's going to have to go in there and trim the fat, and I'm afraid that is it the Velma show where it's Mindy Kaling? I don't think that thing is meant for much time. I don't think it's gonna do that well. No one wants to watch that.
Yeah, in a perfect world.
Yeah, in a perfect world. But that's my guess. And Warner, they own a lot of properties. So what I think is very important is that they focus in on a few that they know are going to make money. I don't have to like them. Like if the Arrowverse is still successful, then go for it. It's not my bag of donuts, but go for it. And and give us the Venture Brothers. Was that Warner Brothers? And like it
was Adult Swim, so by proxy it has to be.
Yeah, I think so. So they own Adult Swim, right? Yeah.
I think the Venture Brothers, it got stuck in a creator versus company diff sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, I think there was a money dispute going on because Cartoon Network's money people, which I guess is this Warner Brothers conglomerate sort of thing, they've got this really bad habit of like getting absolutely stellar properties with amazingly good content creators at the helm, and then going like, wow, your show is doing so great, good job, keep up the good work, also we are not paying you any more than we started out. And I remember like this was the chief thing, and these guys are still sort of pissed off about this to this day, and rightfully so. Creators of a little show called Magus XLR.
I feel like I've heard
Yeah, it was a giant robot, but it was a giant robot, but it was also really, really funny because like the protagonist was the exact opposite of what you would picture a giant robot cartoon character to be. Like,
Yeah.
it's literally a guy that found it in a
Is it?
junkyard and paid $5 for it and souped it up.
Oh, I know. I think I know the show. Is he like a fat blonde guy? Like
Yeah, his name's Coop.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen the show, but I'm familiar with that character.
Dude, it's a great time, man. If you,
Yeah.
I think they only did like 2 or 3 seasons, but if you can find them, you'll love them. You and Lindsay will love the crap out of them.
All right. Well, I'll look into it. I don't have HBO Max.
It's
But
not on.
I'm
It's not
sure.
going to be on HBO Max.
Oh, okay, okay.
These were like this was years and years and years ago. But he
Mhm.
was talking the creators of the show were talking about like, yeah, no, like we saw the ratings we were getting and we were like, hey, Cartoon Network, can we get some more money?
Mhm.
And they were like, no, we don't think so. You got to make these ratings for us to give you any more money. And then they moved the slot of the show.
Mhm.
They moved it to a time where it was a much, much less trafficked show. And because of that move, the ratings went down, and they used that as an excuse to say, oh, see, your ratings went down, so there's no way in hell we're giving you more money now. So
Yeah, yeah.
shut up and get back in your place. And again, I don't recall if that's the exact thing that happened with Venture Brothers, but I do know there was a bit of a hang up there.
Mhm. Yep. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the. Wow, how did I make that? Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments, and the big layoffs. Like, do you think that maybe streaming services are, and maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it depends on the service too. But do you guys think that maybe some streaming services like overly bombard us with content that most people are gonna ignore because they're only gonna pick a couple things that they like and probably just watch those things? And I wonder if they need to like work out a new model, maybe. I mean, right now they all look very similar. I can't say for sure if they are, but like I'm on a trial for Netflix right now, because my wife wanted to watch something and it was the only way we could get it, and I'm also Amazon Prime member because I do a lot of ordering on Amazon, and they give you like a free membership, not free, but as part of your Amazon Plus, you get access. So because I have that,
It's so funny. Like when I signed up for Amazon Prime, because we had a lot of stuff we were ordering,
yeah,
and we were gonna do it all at once. It's like, okay, the Prime membership makes sense. Let's
yeah,
do it
you
for just
save
this month.
you save a lot of
And
money on that on your
yeah, for
orders.
the shipping alone, we saved over
Yeah,
$100.
yeah,
And we got that all through, and it came all super fast. And then I was really like, not shocked, but I was like, what's this? We got a letter from Amazon. And first I thought, is this like a scam or something? Then I opened it up, and it was this reminder from Amazon going like, hey, Amazon here, we just wanted to point out that you got Prime and you haven't activated like the video part of that. Like, you could be watching the Rings of Power right now. Did you know that?
oh boy, those fucking bastards. They want you to watch the Rings of Power. Those fucking bastards. Um, did you watch it?
No, I don't think I even set it up yet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean,
Remains unset up.
there is a good amount on Prime. That's what I was gonna say. Like, it seemed like when I'm on Netflix and I'm just sort of looking around, because our membership trial is gonna run out in like a couple weeks. But I'm on Netflix and I'm just kind of looking, and it's either all like foreign language shit, which I'm like, why would I watch this? Or it's just, it's just not good. Like, if you, it's October. I should be watching spooky content right now. Oh, not right now, but that's what I'm trying to get my wife to see. I'm like, let's watch some spoopy stuff on streaming, see what's out there. And if I search for some of the classics, they don't ever have them. Like, they don't have Halloween, they don't have any of the Friday the 13th movies, which we don't really need to watch because I own most of those on DVD. A lot of the classic stuff, right? Like, let's watch The Wolfman. I don't know. But you can't get any of those things. But what they have instead are like remakes or, whatever of that. Like, I can't remember the name of the movie I was trying to find, but they didn't have the original version. They had, it was The Thing. And it was like, they didn't have The Thing. They had The Thing remake from 2011, which, no, like, I don't want her to see that because it's probably not as good. They have the remake of, a lot of this like garbage, and Fright Night. They only had the remake. Now, the remake of Fright Night's not bad, but the original Fright Night should have been available.
Do you think this is intentional?
Well, yeah, because I would guess so, because they will, like, if you search a film, it comes up on like the like the autofill thing. So if you start typing Alien, it'll show up Alien when you get like 3 letters in. And if you click on it, none of the videos that Netflix recommends will actually be Alien. There'll be other movies, knockoffs, or movies that were, intended to be similar, but they're not movies you ever heard of. It's like Alien Invader, or something like that. So, and I'm like, no, we're not watching that. But on Amazon, they seem to have a lot more access. Now, sometimes you have to pay for a rental, but that's okay if the movie is really good. So I'll leave it at this. Okay, I was telling my wife, I said, okay, I'm gonna rent for like $3. I'm gonna rent Dusk Till Dawn, and we're gonna watch that. And she didn't know what it was. She had never seen it before. And she didn't even want me to rent it because I paid for it. It was like $3, right? And she goes, "You paid to rent that? No." Like, and I'm like, no, trust me. We're going to watch this movie because I know you've never seen it. And we watched Dusk Till Dawn. And she, at first, wasn't interested. Like, she was trying to act like she didn't want to see it. And of course, if you've seen Dusk Till Dawn, you'll know that it starts off one way, like a Tarantino movie.
Yep.
And then,
vampires.
Right, yeah. Suddenly there's vampires. And we're watching it, and then the vampires come out. And she is like, what is this film? Like, she's like totally like, just like, she's just like, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen.
Yep.
And I was like, yes.
Vintage exactly. Tarantino.
Yeah. Well, Robert Rodriguez is responsible for the other half, I think. But yeah, and I don't know how she felt about it. I mean, I know while it was going on, she was like, what the fuck? But I don't know. I have to talk to her today when I go pick her up. But yes, we watched Dusk Till Dawn, and I don't think she regretted it. Oh, and the nice. foot crap was so annoying. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like Tarantino was on like Joe Rogan not long ago, and he was complaining about how 80s movies were too politically correct. 80s movies?
What?
Yeah, he said that. And I think it's because he might have a different idea of what politically correct content is, because I mean, he likes to do foot shit in all of his movies, and he likes to be.
I remember seeing that. It was like, the genius of Quentin Tarantino. Write a scene where a character has to lick an attractive woman's foot, cast an attractive woman for the woman. Cast yourself as the person licking the foot. Quentin Tarantino, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Yeah, he's totally just living out like fantasies. It's so gross. And then he has like, look, I like Tarantino's movies, but I don't like the guy. Something about him, you know, I just he something about him
he's a
he
very
bugs.
skeezy sort.
Yeah, he is. He is a very skeezy kind of slimy dude. I like his movies, but
I had this discussion with some of the people in the Discord the other day. He seems now all he writes are these weird alt history revenge fantasies.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, Django Unchained was just let's go shoot a bunch of racists, and then there was you know, Inglourious Bastards, let's go back and kill Hitler, and then there's you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, let's go back and kill the Manson family.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just like all he does now is, I guess, write alt history. And
apparently, I mean, that again, it's another reason why I don't know that like I enjoyed Dusk Till Dawn. I think that's right in the ballpark of the kind of stuff I like from Tarantino. I was never a fan of Django. I was never a fan of Inglourious Bastards. I liked Hateful Eight. That was like, I thought that was good.
Hateful Eight. Oh god, Hateful Eight was hysterical for all the wrong reasons. Like, yeah. I remember watching it and like getting almost exactly to like the second halfway through, going like, man, this is a really well-made movie. They've got a mystery going. There's a lot of characterization. There's a lot of really, really interesting stuff going on here. And then it's like they were making this movie behind Tarantino's back, and halfway through he finally realized and just barged on set. He's like, all right, you shoot him. He's gonna shoot her. You shoot him. Come on, we're doing a Tarantino movie. Fucking act like it. And then it just turns into a slaughterhouse, and then a guy sucks Samuel L. Jackson's dick, and then Samuel L. Jackson gets shot in the balls, and then it's like, yeah. oh yeah, the Tarantino movie. I almost forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I agree. I mean, I think overall, I think that Hateful Eight was good, but it did have these Tarantino. I see people in the chat are making mention of some things. Hateful was decent. Voda says Kill Bill. Well, yeah, Kill Bill's good.
Oh, Kill Bill's the fucking goat. I mean, yeah, come on now.
I think that he was still, you know, doing really well because it was an homage, and he did a good job on the homage.
Grindhouse, I loved Grindhouse. That was one of the things I insisted on seeing in theater, and like my aunt at the time was, you know, that very straight-laced person. She's like, I'm not watching that movie with you. I'm like, okay. I had to take like the bus down to watch it.
You know, I will say, and maybe people will think I'm not that sophisticated for feeling this way, but in Grindhouse, I certainly loved Planet Terror, but I did not care for Death Proof. I felt that...
Yeah, I wasn't as big of a fan as Death Proof. It's just so much women sitting around and talking.
With their feet in the camera, but like also like I think that he thought it would be really clever to have us meet some women and then like have the guy kill them all, just kill them all, and then we meet a whole new group of women, and those women stand up to him and defeat him. And I was like, that's kind of dull. Like, what does the first group of women have to do with the second group? Obviously, they don't have anything to do with it, because he's just presenting two scenarios with two different outcomes. But personally, I thought that as goofy as it was, Planet Terror was a lot more sort of, it was consistent, basically. Like, it flowed from beginning to end, even though it was about zombies and all this other shit, you know. But it was just so, and I mean, like, there's some good actors in that too, like the fucking guy from Lawnmower Man. That boy got the devil in him. So yeah, like I enjoyed Planet Terror. So when I went to buy the movie on Blu-ray, I only bought Planet Terror and I didn't get Death Proof.
Yeah, I more so enjoyed it for the feel of it, for like the atmosphere, and of course watching it in the theaters, and then having the joy of watching all of the little like the fake movie trailers that they wrote.
Oh, I love the fake movie trailers.
Oh, those were the best.
Those are great. Thanksgiving,
and
that should be a real movie. Like
my favorite was Don't.
Yeah, Don't. Or the one with Nicolas Cage. It's like
werewolf women of the SS.
Yeah, come on.
Oh god, there were so many bangers, and like the best part is more than one of those actually turned into an actual movie.
Really?
You know, we got Machete.
Oh, they did do Machete.
We got Hobo with a shotgun.
Yeah, I didn't see that. But
that movie it took a very weird turn. I'll just say that much.
Yeah. Hobo with a shotgun. That's it?
I think there are more, but I can't remember. I know those two off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's good enough. All right, well, anyway, we've been talking for a bit. I'm going to go into the after show. So if you guys want to join us, we still have a couple more stories we're going to talk about. We're going to look at this kind of low, it's a very low quality trailer for the new Indiana Jones. So yeah, I guess there was a leaked trailer, and I'm sorry. But if you want to join us to check this out, go to feedthebadger.com and start a monthly subscription, and we'll be able to watch together. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about Blade, which is, it's not just an awesome movie from 1999, but Marvel is working on remaking it for the MCU, and they're running into some trouble. And there's also a story about The Last of Us, HBO star Bella Ramsey, and she was encouraged not to play the game before filming, which is a little bit weird.
Is the Blade trouble Wesley Snipes?
Yeah.
Okay, I saw that one coming.
Well, no. It's not Wesley Snipes. I don't think. It's like
no.
They're just like Marvel is. I think that they're losing a lot of money, and they gotta like push back dates. And if I remember correctly, that guy Ali, I don't remember his name, but the guy who wanted to play Blade, he played a character on Luke Cage when it was airing on Netflix. Mahershala Ali, and he was the guy who wanted to play the character of Blade, but they're just pushing it back. I think it's just money. So they're probably in a lot of trouble financially. So anyway, before they replace Blade with a woman, maybe we can get like I don't think so. Like from what I read about the script, there's only 2 action sequences in the whole movie, which sounds exactly like what I would have expected. Because if you look at the new stuff that not just Disney, but like Hollywood in general is putting out, it's usually 2 action sequences. One in the beginning to try and get you hooked in, and then nothing until the end or the climax. And then it might be a CG fest. It might be shorter than you think, because it's not intended as like a showcase. Like the original Blade, that was like a labor of love. So Wesley Snipes wanted to show off his martial arts skills. And so they took a character from the comics that he could play, and he did. And he
was a total diva the entire time.
He was. Well, yeah, he was, but he was good at what he did. And how many action sequences are there in Blade, the original from 1999? I mean, I could think of at least like 5 or 6. And it's like
Easy, yeah.
constant. Yeah, it's like constant. Why is that? Because it's an action movie. In fact, it's a martial arts movie. It's sort of like, it's almost like it's a sub genre of action where it's highly choreographed, you know, very fast moving, very exciting, very like energized fighting sequences. They're like other movies don't do that. Even other comic book movies don't do that. Maybe except like some of the early Captain America ones, because that's what he was. He was a brawler, but like beyond that though, no. And so this is not going to be good. Like this Blade remake is not going to be good. I wouldn't get excited. That's
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say. But
It's gonna be the fucking tropey MCU formula where they
yeah,
put in just a bunch of unnecessary comedy without it being a comedy. He's gonna say a bunch of corny one-liners that are gonna become memes.
yeah.
He's going to fight the climactic fight is going to be against a villain with powers very similar to his,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing of consequence will happen. He is simply going to be established and shoved into the MCU kicking and screaming.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because they just want to be able to say they own it, and then they're
Oh, and a
gonna just
skybeam. There might be a skybeam.
there might be, and then they're just gonna destroy it, and then they're gonna replace him with a woman. I mean, I can tell you that right now. They're gonna kill him off or something, and there's gonna be a woman. They've done this basically without fail. Like if you look at the new
I just imagined the worst thing.
if you look at the new Phase 4 lineup, it's all women except for Anthony Mackie. And I'm
Brian,
wondering, like, he seems out of place. Yeah.
Brian, imagine the female replacement for Blade, Leslie Jones.
I could see them
doing
doing
all
that.
the doing all the jumping around and wire fighting and kung fu, and it's just completely unbelievable,
Yep,
gravity defying.
exactly. So anyway, we're gonna head into the patron show and talk about those things. So if you guys, let me just make sure that I've read all of the super chats and super chows. So thank you again, Blave Kaiser, for that message. Senior, I think it's Senior Sticks, yes, gives us $2 and says, "War not bad for health, but men having hobbies is bad." Yes, for their heart. Q Brother Soulstar gives us $2 and says, "I survived Nintendo-itis." What's Nintendo-itis?
Oh, that's when they were making up like names for repetitive stress injuries. And they were like, this is a really big problem. This is something we're going to have to do in the future. We're going to have to, you're going to have to be careful. Oh my God, look at all the endemic of, people spraining their thumbs or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Nintendo. We used to call it Nintendo Thumb. That's what
I remember
my friends and
I remember getting an earful from one of my aunts. She's like, have you heard of this? They're calling it Wii-itis.
Oh, God.
I'm like, that's just a repetitive stress injury. They just gave it a new sexy name to talk about the current thing.
God. All right. Well, we're going to head into the patron show now. So please consider joining us by going to feedthebadger.com. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, and you'll be able to watch the additional content much like you are right now. And if you give it higher levels, then you can probably join us in the conversation itself. The Nerdcast is not a very high level thing, so you can get in for pretty cheap. I just don't know how much that is off the top of my head, but trust me, it's the lowest like cost for entry. So anyway, if you guys like this video, please smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show. And please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR Nerdcast. Well, I just call it the Nerdcast. And we will talk to you all in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.